A woman helped an injured horse and woke up to police and reporters at her door. Emma Thompson never imagined that a simple act of kindness could turn her life upside down. The 35-year-old retired veterinarian had lost her professional license 2 years earlier after reporting a document forgery scheme that no one wanted to investigate thoroughly. On that cold July morning, when she found the horse collapsed on the dirt road leading to her small property in Aspen, her old instincts kicked in. The dark brown animal had strange injuries on its legs, as if it had walked for a long time on rough terrain. "Easy, boy," whispered Emma, kneeling on the frost-covered ground. "I'm going to help you." The horse looked at her with tired eyes but offered no resistance as she examined its injured legs. There was something familiar about that gaze, a sadness that seemed to go beyond physical pain. Emma managed to lead it to the barn at the back of her property. The place hadn't been used in years, since she had stopped working, but it still had all the necessary structure to shelter an animal. All afternoon, she tended to its wounds with the few supplies she had stored away. The horse was docile, almost grateful for the care. While cleaning its legs, Emma noticed old scars that indicated systematic abuse. "Who hurt you like this?" she murmured, feeling her heart tighten. That night, exhausted from the physical effort she hadn't exerted in years, Emma slept deeply. It was the insistent knocking on her front door that woke her, along with the sound of engines and raised voices outside. Still in her pajamas, she opened the door and was faced with a scene that seemed straight out of a movie. Police officers, reporters, cameras, official cars, all surrounding her small house. "Ms. Emma Thompson?" asked a middle-aged detective, showing his identification. "I'm Detective Johnson. We need to talk about the horse you're sheltering." "Horse?" Emma blinked, still trying to process the situation. "How do you know about—" "It's the animal in your barn, isn't it?" interrupted a reporter, shoving a microphone toward her. "This horse belongs to Olivia Williams, who disappeared 3 years ago. What do you have to say about that?" Emma's world seemed to stop. Olivia Williams. She knew that name. Everyone in the region knew it. The daughter of Robert Williams, one of the most powerful businessmen in New York, who had mysteriously disappeared at the age of 8 during a visit to the mountain region. "I don't understand," stammered Emma, feeling her legs weaken. "I found the horse yesterday, injured on the road. I've never seen this animal before in my life." The detective gestured for the reporters to step back a bit. "May I come in? We need to verify the animal and ask a few questions." Emma nodded, still in shock. They walked to the barn where the horse was resting peacefully. The moment the detective saw it, he confirmed with a nod to the other officers. "It's him. Chestnut, the girl's horse." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "Look, Ms. Emma," said the detective, pulling up a nearby chair. "I'll be direct with you. This animal has an implanted microchip. It contains Olivia Williams's medical information. How do you explain that?" Emma felt the blood drain from her face. "Microchip? I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know." "You worked as a veterinarian for many years, didn't you? You know how to read these chips." "I did, yes, but I lost my license 2 years ago, and even when I had it, I didn't always check chips in emergency cases." "My only concern was saving the animal." Detective Johnson studied her for a few seconds. "Why did you lose your license?" Emma lowered her gaze. It was a wound that still hurt. "I reported a scheme involving falsified veterinary documents at a large clinic in New York. Instead of investigating, they accused me of slander, and I lost everything." At that moment, a tall, well-dressed man arrived, accompanied by 2 lawyers. Emma recognized him immediately from the news reports about his daughter's disappearance. Robert Williams. "Where is my daughter?" he shouted as soon as he entered the barn. "What did you do with her?" "Mr. Williams, calm down," said the detective. "We are still investigating." "Investigating what? This woman has had Olivia's horse for 3 years. It's obvious she knows where my daughter is." Emma felt the tears burning her eyes. "I had never seen this horse before yesterday, sir. Please, you have to believe me." Robert stepped closer, his face red with anger. "You're the veterinarian who lost her license for falsifying documents, aren't you? And now you want me to believe you found my horse by accident." "I didn't falsify anything," Emma exploded. "I reported the people who were doing it." "Enough," the detective intervened. "Mr. Williams, let us do our job." One of the police officers approached with a device to read the microchip. The horse remained calm during the procedure, as if it were used to it. "Confirmed," said the officer. "The chip contains Olivia Williams's medical data, date of birth, blood type, allergies, and information about treatment for autism." The word autism hung in the air. Emma remembered the news reports from the time of the disappearance. The girl had been diagnosed with autism at age 6, but the parents had never spoken much about it publicly. "Mr. Williams," said Emma, trying to keep her voice steady, "if this horse is here, it means your daughter might be nearby. Instead of accusing me, wouldn't it be better if we looked for her?" Robert stared at her with contempt. "You think I'm an idiot? We've already searched this entire area dozens of times. If the horse is here, it's because you brought it from wherever you're hiding my daughter." "But I didn't—" "Detective," Robert turned to the policeman, "I want this woman arrested immediately for kidnapping." "Mr. Williams, we don't have evidence for that. For now, we will just maintain surveillance on the property and continue the investigation." Emma felt relieved, but she knew this was only the beginning of a nightmare. The reporters were still outside, and she could hear their voices speculating about her possible involvement in the disappearance. After everyone left, Emma was alone with the horse. She stroked its neck, feeling it tremble slightly. "What happened to you, Chestnut? Where is Olivia?" As if understanding her words, the horse raised its head and looked toward the forest surrounding the property. It was then that Emma noticed something strange. Whenever it heard the sound of cars passing on the road, the animal would tap its hooves in a rhythmic pattern. 3 quick taps, 2 slow ones, 3 quick taps again. "Are you trying to tell me something?" she whispered. In the following days, Emma's life turned into hell. Reporters camped outside her house, neighbors looked at her with suspicion, and she could barely go out to buy groceries without being harassed by cameras and questions. One of the most persistent reporters was Tyler Reed, an ambitious young man who seemed determined to prove that Emma was involved in the disappearance. He dug up her past life, her dismissal from the veterinary clinic, even details about her financial difficulties. "Ms. Thompson," Tyler said on one of the occasions he managed to get to her door, "I found out you received a very low settlement when you lost your job. Wouldn't it be tempting to accept money to hide a child?" "Get off my property," Emma replied, trying to close the door. "The documents show you were 3 months behind on the house payments at the time of Olivia's disappearance. A coincidence?" Emma stopped. It was true, 3 years ago she was indeed going through severe financial difficulties, but the insinuation was terrible. "I would never harm a child." But hiding isn't the same as harming, is it? Especially if the child was being mistreated by her own father. "What do you mean by that?" Tyler smiled maliciously. "I looked into Robert Williams. There are rumors he didn't take his daughter's diagnosis well. Some former employees said he tried several alternative treatments, some questionable." Before Emma could respond, Tyler was already gone, leaving her with more questions than answers. That night, she watched Chestnut for hours. The horse displayed peculiar behaviors. When it heard music on the radio, it became agitated. When it heard children's voices on the television, it whinnied softly. And whenever a car passed on the road, it repeated that sequence of taps with its hooves. Emma began noting the patterns. 3 quick taps, 2 slow ones, 3 quick ones. It seemed like Morse code. She looked it up online and discovered it really was SOS. "My God," she whispered. "You were taught to ask for help." The next morning, an elderly woman appeared on the property. It was Mrs. Henderson, who lived in a small house a few miles away. "Miss," she said, looking around to make sure there were no reporters nearby, "I need to talk to you about that horse." Emma invited her inside. "I've seen that animal several times over the last few years," Mrs. Henderson whispered, as if telling a secret. "Always returning to the same spot in the forest. I thought it was strange because it seemed domesticated, but I never saw an owner." "What spot in the forest?" There's an old trail that leads to an abandoned hunter's cabin. My late husband used to go there. The horse always went in that direction. Emma felt her heart race. Can you show me where it is? I can, but it's dangerous. The trail is all overgrown, and no one has used that path for 3 years. Please, it's important. Mrs. Henderson looked her in the eyes and nodded. Let's go early tomorrow before the reporters wake up. That night, Emma could barely sleep. What if Olivia was really in the forest? What if she had been alive all these years? Why had no one found the cabin? The next morning, Emma and Mrs. Henderson set out very early, following an almost invisible trail into the thick woods. The path was steep and difficult, full of broken branches and loose stones. This is why they never found it, Mrs. Henderson said, panting. No one would imagine a child could get all the way out here. After almost 2 hours of walking, they reached a small clearing where a dilapidated wooden cabin stood. There were signs someone lived there, clothes hanging on a line, a small vegetable garden, cut firewood. Emma approached slowly and knocked on the door. Is anyone there? Silence. Then they heard light footsteps, and the door opened a crack. A brown eye watched them fearfully. We don't want to harm you, Emma said softly. We're looking for Olivia. The door opened a little more, revealing a woman around 50 years old, thin with greying hair. Who are you? The woman asked. My name is Emma. I'm taking care of Chestnut. Upon hearing the horse's name, the woman's expression changed completely. Chestnut. Is he okay? Where is he? At my property. He showed up injured a few days ago. The woman opened the door completely, and they could see a girl of about 11 years old hiding behind her. The child had light brown hair and large eyes, exactly like in the photos that had circulated in the media. Olivia. Emma felt her legs go weak. The girl was alive. Please, said the woman, who was clearly the one responsible for the child's care. Don't draw attention. You can't take her back. I'm Margaret, she continued. I was the housekeeper for the Williams family. I ran away with Olivia 3 years ago. Why? Asked Emma, still processing the situation. Margaret looked at Olivia, who remained silent behind her. Because Robert wanted to commit her to a psychiatric clinic. He said her autism was a shame for the family. She was regressing, stopping talking, hurting herself because of the pressure. But you couldn't just report it. Report it to who? He's powerful. He has influence. And Olivia doesn't speak. How would she tell anyone what was happening? Emma looked at the girl, who stayed quiet but watched everything intently. Chestnut was her only friend, continued Margaret, the only one who calmed her down. When Robert decided to get rid of the horse too, I knew I had to do something. Get rid of him? He was going to have him put down. He said the animal made Olivia even stranger. The word put down made Emma feel angry. How could a father be so cruel to a child with special needs? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. But how did you manage to escape? And how has no one found you? Margaret sighed. I had worked for the family for 15 years. I knew everyone's habits. On the night I escaped with Olivia, I pretended she had gone to bed as usual. It was only the next morning they would discover we were missing. And the horse? We took him with us, of course, but we couldn't keep him with us all the time. It was too risky. So I taught Chestnut to come back to Olivia whenever he could. He learned the way. Emma remembered the knocks in Morse code. You taught him to ask for help. My husband was in the military. I knew Morse code. I thought it might be useful one day. Margaret looked at Olivia affectionately. She's much better here. She talks to me, she plays, she's learning about nature. Isn't that what a child deserves? Emma knelt down to Olivia's level. Hi, Olivia. I'm taking care of Chestnut. He misses you. To her surprise, the girl whispered something she couldn't understand. She said she knows, translated Margaret. Olivia has a special connection with Chestnut. She always knows if he's okay or not. Margaret, Emma said after a few minutes, you can't stay hidden forever. Olivia needs an education, proper medical care, and she needs to be taken away from a father who wants to lock her up in an asylum. Emma didn't know what to say. Legally, Robert had rights over his daughter, but morally what he intended to do was disgusting. "Let me think of a solution," she said finally. "But for now, don't come back here. The police might discover this place." "Where will we go?" "Come to my property. I'll find a way to protect you." Margaret shook her head. "It's too dangerous. If they find us there, you'll be arrested for being an accomplice. Then I'll have to take that risk." That afternoon, Emma returned home with her mind racing. She needed to find a legal way to protect Olivia. But how to prove Robert was an unfit father without exposing Margaret and the girl? She decided to look for lawyers specializing in children's rights. She found a firm in New York that had won several cases involving children with special needs. "Dr. Jennifer Parker," Emma said on the phone. "I need an urgent consultation about a custody case. Can you give me more details?" Emma took a deep breath. "It's about Olivia Williams." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "The missing child?" "Mom, if you have information about this case, you should go to the police, not a lawyer." "I know, but it's complicated. Can I explain in person?" "Come tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon, but I warn you that if there is any illegality, I will have to report it to the authorities." Emma Thompson agreed. She was willing to take the risk. That night, Chestnut was especially restless. He paced back and forth in the barn, whinnying softly. Emma knew he could feel Sophia's proximity. Around midnight, she heard a soft noise at the back door. It was Margaret with Sophia. "We decided to come," said Margaret. "It's no longer safe in the forest. Some tourists have started using the trail." Emma settled them in the guest room and took Sophia to see Chestnut. The horse's reaction was immediate. He approached the girl and gently nudged her face with his muzzle. It was then that Emma saw Sophia smile for the first time. And more than that, she spoke. "Hi, Chestnut. I missed you." Her voice was low, almost a whisper, but they were the first words Sophia had spoken in Emma's presence. "She only speaks when she's with the horse," explained Margaret. "It's as if he were her bridge to the world." Emma watched the interaction between the girl and the animal. It was something magical, almost therapeutic. Sophia told Chestnut about her days in the forest, about the birds she saw, about the flowers she cared for. The horse listened attentively, responding with movements of his head. "Margaret," said Emma, "I need you to tell me everything about what Robert did with Sophia. Every detail could be important." They sat in the kitchen while Sophia stayed with Chestnut. "It started after Sophia's mother passed away," Margaret recounted. "Robert's wife, Catherine, was the one who really took care of the girl. When she left, he didn't know how to handle his daughter's autism." "How did the mother die?" "Cancer. Sophia was 6. That's when the autism symptoms became more evident, probably because of the trauma of the loss." "And Robert?" "He refused to accept the diagnosis. He took Sophia to many doctors, always looking for someone who would say it was just a phase. When everyone confirmed the autism, he became angry." Margaret paused as if it was difficult to continue. "He started talking about fixing Sophia. He researched experimental treatments, some even dangerous. He even gave her unapproved medications." Emma felt anger growing inside her. "And the horse?" "Chestnut was a gift from the mother to Sophia shortly before she died. It was the only thing that calmed the girl during her meltdowns. But Robert saw this as a sign of weakness. That's why he wanted to get rid of the animal." "Exactly. He said Sophia needed to learn to live in the real world, not take refuge in a horse." At that moment, they heard loud voices outside. Emma felt her blood run cold. "Hide," she whispered to Margaret. "Take Sophia to the room and don't make a sound." She went to the window and saw several cars parked in front of her house. Robert Williams was there, accompanied by lawyers and some people she didn't recognize. The knock on the door was loud and insistent. "Mrs. Thompson," shouted a voice, "we have a search warrant for the property." Emma opened the door with her heart racing. "What search warrant?" One of Robert's lawyers showed her the papers. "Suspicion of harboring a minor. We are going to search the entire property, including the barn and the house." "This is absurd," You can't. Yes, we can, said Robert, entering without an invitation. My daughter is here. I know she is. Emma tried to stay calm as the men searched the house. In the guest room, they found children's clothes that Margaret had forgotten to hide. Girls' clothes, size 11, said one of the investigators. Mrs. Thompson, do you have children? No. Those clothes were from a niece who stayed here a few times. Robert looked at her with contempt. What's this niece's name? Where does she live? We can check. Emma felt cornered. Look, Mr. Williams, I understand your pain, but I can't just make up information to satisfy you. At that moment, they heard a loud whinny coming from the barn. Everyone ran there and saw Chestnut agitated, pawing the ground in quick sequences. SOS, SOS, SOS. The horse is calling for help, whispered Emma without thinking. What do you mean, calling for help? Asked one of the investigators. Emma realized she had said too much. He gets agitated when there are a lot of strangers around. But Robert had noticed the pattern of the pawing. Morse code, he said, his eyes shining. My daughter knew Morse code. Margaret taught her. The net was closing in. Emma knew it was only a matter of time before they found Olivia and Margaret. Mr. Williams, she said, trying one last gambit. Can I speak with you in private? Robert hesitated but agreed. They moved away from the others. I know where your daughter is, Emma said quietly. Robert's eyes widened. Where? But first, I need you to promise me something. Promise me you won't commit her to a psychiatric clinic. Robert's face hardened. Who told you that? Promise first. I will do what is best for my daughter, and you have no right to have an opinion on that. Then I won't tell you where she is. Robert signaled to the investigators. Tear this place apart. She's here. It was 15 tense minutes until one of the men shouted from the guest room, Here! There are people hiding. Emma closed her eyes, defeated. A few minutes later, Margaret and Olivia were brought into the living room, the girl clearly terrified by so many strangers. Olivia! Robert ran toward his daughter, but she shrank behind Margaret. Not Daddy, whispered Olivia, the only words she said in her father's presence. Robert stopped, hurt by his daughter's reaction. Olivia, it's me, your father. You're safe now. But the girl continued hiding, starting to make repetitive hand movements, a clear sign of anxiety. Mr. Williams, said Margaret, she's fine. There's no need to force... You, Robert exploded. You kidnapped my daughter. You'll pay for this. I saved your daughter, Margaret retorted. I saved her from being committed like she was mentally ill. The embarrassment was general. Even the investigators seemed uncomfortable with the accusation. What is she talking about? One of them asked. Robert turned red. She's lying. I tried to give Olivia the best possible treatment. Treatment? Margaret laughed bitterly. Experimental drugs, doctors who promised to cure autism, that's treatment. Emma watched Olivia, who was clearly having a crisis. The girl began rocking back and forth, making low sounds of discomfort. She needs Chestnut, said Emma. When she gets like this, only the horse can calm her down. Nonsense, said Robert. Olivia just needs to learn discipline. Mr. Williams, one of the investigators intervened. Perhaps it's better to let the child calm down first before... No, she's coming with me now. She's been away from her father for too long. Robert tried to approach Olivia again, but she started to scream. No, no, no! The sound was distressing. Emma couldn't stand by and watch. Let me take her to Chestnut, she said. Just for a few minutes until she calms down. Absolutely not. Olivia is coming with me now. But when Robert tried to pick up his daughter, she began to struggle violently, screaming and hitting him. Stop! You're scaring her even more, shouted Margaret. At that moment, Chestnut appeared in the doorway. He had managed to open the barn door and ran to where Olivia was. As soon as she saw the horse, the girl stopped screaming and ran towards it. Chestnut, she said, hugging the animal's neck. Immediately, Olivia calmed down. The horse let her climb onto its back and stood still, like a solid rock where she could take refuge. The scene was touching. Even the toughest investigators seemed moved. See? Emma said to Robert. She needs the horse. It's therapeutic. That's just emotional dependency, Robert replied, but his voice no longer sounded so convinced. "Mr. Williams," said one of the investigators, "perhaps it's best to let the child calm down completely before taking her. We can wait until tomorrow." Robert was about to protest, but his lawyers advised him to accept. "Fine, but I want police officers to watch this property all night. No one leaves." After everyone had left, leaving only 2 officers at the entrance, Emma was left alone with Margaret and Olivia in the barn. "What are we going to do?" asked Margaret. "Tomorrow he's taking Olivia and we'll never see her again." Emma looked at Olivia, who was lying next to Chestnut, finally at peace. "Not if he's deemed unfit to care for her." "How do we prove that?" "I have a meeting tomorrow morning with a lawyer in New York. I'm going to tell her everything." "But if you do that, you'll admit you hid her. You could be arrested." Emma sighed. "Some things are more important than our own safety." The next morning, Emma left for New York, leaving Margaret and Olivia under the discreet watch of the police officers. The meeting with the lawyer, Jennifer Parker, was tense. "Mrs. Thompson," said Jennifer after hearing the whole story, "you've committed several crimes. Concealment of a minor, interference with custody." "I know. But what about Susan? Can she be protected?" Jennifer thought for a few minutes. "In cases of mistreatment, we can request a temporary suspension of parental rights, but we need concrete evidence." "What kind of evidence?" "Medical documents, witnesses, evidence of the improper treatments the father applied. Margaret can testify. A person who kidnapped the child. Her testimony would be questionable." Emma felt discouraged. "So there's nothing we can do?" "There is a possibility," said Jennifer. "If we can prove that the environment with the father is harmful to Susan's mental health, we can request a psychological evaluation." "How?" "The child's own reaction can be evidence. If she shows trauma or extreme fear of her father, a psychologist could recommend that custody be temporarily transferred." Emma felt a spark of hope. "And who would get temporary custody?" "A family member, or in exceptional cases, a guardian appointed by the judge." "Could Margaret be considered?" "No, because she participated in the kidnapping. But you—" "Perhaps." Emma was shocked. "Me? If we proved you acted in good faith, trying to protect the child, and if Susan showed she was well under your care." "But I don't even really know her." "You don't need to. You need to demonstrate that you can provide a suitable environment for a child with autism." Emma returned home with her head buzzing with possibilities. When she arrived, she found a scene that alarmed her. Susan was having a meltdown, screaming and thrashing, while Robert was trying to force her into a van. "What's happening?" Emma yelled. "I'm taking my daughter home," Robert replied. "I don't need your permission for that." "But you said you would wait until she calmed down." "I changed my mind." Susan was clearly in a panic. She was screaming for Chestnut, who was being prevented from approaching by 2 men. "Mr. Williams, please," Emma begged. "She's having a meltdown. At least let the horse calm her down before you travel." "No! Susan needs to learn to live without that animal." At that moment, Olivia managed to free herself from Robert's arms and ran toward the barn. But one of the doors was locked, and she began banging on it desperately. "Chestnut! Chestnut!" she screamed. The scene was heartbreaking. Emma could no longer contain herself. "This is abuse," she shouted. "Can't you see how much she's suffering?" "It's not abuse, it's discipline," Robert replied coldly. Just then, an unfamiliar car arrived. A middle-aged woman with a briefcase stepped out. "I'm social worker Susan Mitchell," she introduced herself. "I've come to assess the situation regarding the minor, Olivia Williams." Robert seemed surprised. "Who called a social worker?" "The district attorney's office was notified about potential irregularities in the child's custody," Susan replied, looking at Olivia, who continued screaming. "May I know what's happening here?" Emma felt a wave of relief. Jennifer had kept her promise to alert the proper authorities. "The girl is having a crisis because she's being forcibly separated from the animal that calms her," Emma explained. Susan observed the scene for a few minutes, taking notes. "Mr. Williams, may I speak with the child?" "Of course. Olivia, come here." But Olivia didn't move. She kept banging on the barn door. "She won't respond while she's in crisis," said Emma. "We need the horse." "What horse?" asked Susan. Emma quickly explained the situation. omitting the details about having hidden Olivia and Margaret. "Interesting," said the social worker. "May I observe this interaction?" Robert started to protest, but Susan interrupted him. "Mr. Williams, this is an official assessment. I need to see all aspects affecting the child's welfare." Reluctantly, Robert signaled for the men to allow access to the barn. As soon as Chestnut appeared, Olivia ran to him and hugged him. Immediately, her screaming stopped. Susan observed everything carefully, taking more notes. "Mr. Williams, how long has Olivia had this connection with the animal?" "Since she was little. But it's an unhealthy dependency. She needs to learn to live without it." "And you?" Susan addressed Emma. "What is your involvement with the child?" Emma took a deep breath. It was the moment of truth. "Margaret, the former housekeeper, brought Olivia to my property a few days ago. They had been in hiding for 3 years. Susan raised her eyebrows. "In hiding? Why?" "Because Mr. Williams wanted to commit Olivia to a psychiatric clinic just because she is autistic." "That's a lie," Robert exploded. "I wanted the best treatment for my daughter." "What kind of treatment?" asked Susan. Robert hesitated. "There were doctors who had innovative methods to help children like Olivia." "Methods like what?" "Intensive therapies, medications." "Experimental medications," Emma interrupted. "Margaret told me about it." Susan turned to Robert with a serious expression. "Mr. Williams, did you administer unapproved medications to your daughter?" They were clinical studies, all supervised by doctors." "Which doctors? May I have the names and records?" Robert began to sweat. "That was 3 years ago. I don't remember all the details." At that moment, Margaret approached. She had remained silent until then, but seemed to decide it was time to speak. "Dr. Mitchell," she said, "I have all the documents." Margaret pulled out a folder she had hidden and handed it to the social worker. "Prescriptions, test results, even recordings of doctors' appointments, where the doctors admit the treatments were experimental." Robert's face turned white. "Margaret, you had no right to keep those documents." "I had every right to protect Olivia," she replied firmly. Susan leafed through the documents quickly. "Mr. Williams, I'm going to need you to come with me to give a statement. And Olivia will be in temporary state custody until we resolve this situation." "No!" Olivia screamed, the first time she had spoken directly about her own situation. "I don't want to leave Chestnut." The social worker looked at the girl with compassion. "Olivia, can you tell me where you want to stay?" The girl looked around, saw Emma, and pointed at her. "With her. She takes care of Chestnut." Susan Mitchell addressed Emma. "Ma'am, would you be able to care for Olivia temporarily while we sort out the legal situation?" Emma felt her heart race. It was a huge responsibility. I accept, but I don't know if I'm qualified." "She has experience with therapy animals, which could be relevant to the case," said Susan. "I will conduct a full assessment of the property and the conditions offered." "This is absurd," shouted Robert. "My daughter cannot stay with a stranger." "Mr. Williams, based on what I've seen here today and the documents presented, there are indications that Olivia may have suffered improper treatment under your care. Until the investigation is concluded, it's best for her to be in a neutral environment." Robert tried to argue, but his lawyers advised him not to make the situation worse. "We will appeal this decision," he said finally. "That is your right," replied Susan. "But for now, Olivia stays here." After Robert left with his men, Emma felt overwhelmed. Suddenly, she was responsible for an autistic girl she barely knew. "Margaret," she said, "can you help me take care of her?" "Of course. But now that everything has come out, I'll probably be sued for kidnapping." "Jennifer, my lawyer, said there might be mitigating circumstances in your case. You acted to protect Olivia." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. In the following days, Susan made several visits to assess the conditions provided by Emma. She was impressed with Olivia's progress. In just 1 week, the girl is calmer, speaking more, and demonstrating social behaviors she didn't have before, reported the social worker. Emma had completely transformed her routine. She researched autism, adapted the house to be more welcoming for Olivia, and most importantly, allowed her to spend unlimited time with Chestnut. "The animal really does seem to have a therapeutic effect on her," observed Susan. "I've seen similar cases in animal-assisted therapy." Olivia was flourishing. She had started helping Emma take care of Chestnut, learning about feeding, hygiene, and veterinary care. It was as if she had found her calling. One afternoon, while brushing Chestnut, Olivia said something that left Emma emotional. "Emma, you're as nice as Chestnut. You both take care of me." It was the longest and most complex sentence Olivia had spoken since she arrived, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. Tyler Reed, the ambitious reporter, kept investigating Emma and discovered her precarious financial situation. "Mrs. Thompson," he said during one of his uninvited visits, "I discovered you were in debt when you lost your job. Wouldn't it be convenient to have a wealthy child under your care?" "What are you implying?" "Perhaps you're interested in a pension or a settlement from the girl's father to keep quiet about the improper treatments." Emma felt angry. "Get off my property immediately. It's just a legitimate question. The public has a right to know. The public has a right to know about Olivia's well-being, not your conspiracy theories." But Tyler didn't give up. He began publishing articles suggesting that Emma might be taking advantage of the situation. Opinions on social media were divided. Some supported Emma, others questioned her motivations. The pressure intensified when Robert hired one of the most expensive law firms in New York to regain custody of Olivia. They filed several appeals, questioning Emma's competence to care for a child with special needs. "She doesn't even have training in special education," argued Robert's lawyer in a hearing. "How can she provide what's best for Olivia?" Jennifer, Emma's lawyer, countered, "Your Honor, what Olivia needs isn't just technical training, but a loving environment where she can be herself. The results speak for themselves." The judge overseeing the case, Judge William Harper, was known for being meticulous in cases involving children. "I want a complete psychological evaluation of Olivia," he ordered, "and I want it done by an autism specialist, not a general psychologist." The psychologist chosen was Dr. Rachel Cooper, one of the country's leading experts in childhood autism. She spent an entire week observing Olivia in different situations, with Emma, with Margaret, during activities with Chestnut, and also during a supervised visit with Robert. The results were revealing. "Olivia displays drastically different behaviors depending on the environment," reported Dr. Cooper to the judge. "With Emma and Margaret, she is more communicative, shows autonomy, and seems secure. During the visit with her father, she regressed to previous behaviors. She stopped speaking, displayed repetitive movements, and showed clear signs of anxiety." "And the issue of the horse?" asked the judge. "The animal functions as a natural therapeutic mediator. Olivia has developed a unique form of communication through him. Separating the child from the horse would be detrimental to her development." The report was a bucket of cold water on Robert. His lawyers tried to question the psychologist's methodology, but her credentials were impeccable. During the decisive hearing, something unexpected happened. Olivia asked to speak to the judge. "Your Honor," she said, her voice soft but clear, "can I talk about my daddy?" Judge Harper was surprised. It was rare for such a young child to ask to testify. "You may speak, Olivia, but only if you want to. When I lived with Daddy, he got angry because I was different. He gave me bad medicine that made me feel strange." Robert tried to interrupt, but the judge silenced him. "Continue, Olivia. Daddy wanted me to be like the other kids, but I can't. I'm different. Chestnut understands that. Emma understands too." "And how do you feel living with Emma?" "Happy. She lets me be myself. And she lets me take care of Chestnut." The simple yet profound statement echoed through the courtroom. Even Robert's lawyers seemed moved. "Olivia," the judge asked gently, "do you want to see your father sometimes?" The girl thought for a few seconds. "Only if he doesn't try to change me. I don't want to take the bad medicine again." After hearing Olivia, the judge called a recess to analyze all the elements of the case. When he returned, his decision was clear. Based on the psychological report, the child's own testimony, and the evidence presented, I rule that Olivia Williams remains under the temporary custody of Emma Thompson." Emma's relief was immense, but the judge wasn't finished. "Mr. Robert Williams, you will have the right to weekly supervised visits, conditional upon undergoing psychological counseling to learn how to properly deal with your daughter's autism." "And what about the kidnapping charge against Margaret? Considering that she acted to protect the child from inappropriate treatments and that her actions were crucial to discovering the truth, the charge will be dropped. However, she must complete community service." Margaret sighed in relief. "It was much better than I could have expected." "Finally," the judge continued, "I grant Olivia unrestricted access to the horse chestnut, recognizing its therapeutic importance." Outside the courthouse, Emma was surrounded by reporters. But this time the questions were different. "How do you feel being responsible for Olivia?" "Scared and honored at the same time," Emma answered honestly. "It's a huge responsibility, but Olivia is a wonderful girl." "What are your plans now?" Emma looked at Olivia, who was petting Chestnut next to the van. "We're going to build a new life together. Olivia has so much to teach about courage and authenticity." Back home, life found a new rhythm. Emma adapted her property to welcome other children with special needs, who also benefited from animal therapy. Olivia helped care for the visitors, demonstrating a natural empathy for other children facing similar challenges. Robert began supervised visits, initially reluctant, but gradually learning to accept and love his daughter exactly as she was. Family therapy was crucial in helping him understand that Olivia's autism was not something to be cured, but rather an integral part of who she was. "Daddy," Olivia said during one of the visits, "you're better now." "What do you mean, sweetie?" "Before, you were sad because I was different. Now you smile when you see me." Olivia's simple observation made Robert realize how much he had changed. Therapy had helped him understand that his love for his daughter did not depend on her being normal, but on her being happy. Margaret decided to stay living on the property, helping Emma care for Olivia and the other children who began visiting the place. She became a sort of grandmother to Olivia, maintaining the emotional connection they had built during the years in the forest. The relationship between Emma and Olivia deepened naturally. It wasn't a replacement for a mother figure, but rather a new family configuration based on love, respect, and mutual understanding. "Emma," Olivia said one afternoon, while brushing Chestnut, "do you think I'm strange?" "Why do you ask that?" "Some people in town say I'm strange because I have autism." Emma knelt beside Olivia. "Olivia, you are special. That's different from being strange. You see the world in a unique and beautiful way. That's a gift, not a problem." "How so?" "You understand animals in a way many people can't. You are kind and honest. You ask important questions that adults have forgotten to ask." Olivia smiled. "Is Chestnut special too?" "Of course. He chose you to be his best friend. That proves you are both special." The transformation in the community was gradual but significant. Initially, some neighbors were skeptical about Emma caring for Olivia, but as they saw the girl's progress and how happy she was, opinions changed. Mrs. Henderson, the elderly neighbor who had helped Emma find Olivia, became one of the new family's biggest supporters. "That girl is thriving," she would say to anyone who would listen. Emma did for her what her own father couldn't. Emma's property turned into a small animal-assisted therapy center. Besides Chestnut, they adopted other rescued animals, a blind sheep named Hope, a three-legged dog named Courage, and several chickens that Olivia loved to feed. Each animal had a story of overcoming adversity, and Olivia learned from each one that being different did not mean being less valuable. "Animals don't judge," Olivia observed one day. "They just love." "Exactly," Emma agreed. "And that's what we should learn from them." Robert's first visit after completing family therapy was emotional. He arrived nervous, carrying a gift, a special custom-made saddle for Olivia to use with Chestnut. "Daddy!" Olivia ran to hug him, something that hadn't happened in years. "Hi, my daughter. I brought something for you." When Olivia saw the saddle, her eyes lit up. "Is it for Chestnut?" "It's for both of you. I did a lot of research on saddles adapted for children with special needs. It was the first time Robert had shown active acceptance and support for Olivia's relationship with the horse. The girl was moved. "Daddy, do you want to see how I take care of Chestnut?" "I'd love to." Olivia showed her father everything she had learned about caring for animals. How to prepare the food, how to brush the coat, how to examine the hooves for injuries. Robert was impressed with his daughter's knowledge and dedication. "Olivia, you've become very responsible," he said, proud. "Emma taught me. She says that taking care of other living beings makes us better people. And she's right." At that moment, Robert understood that Emma hadn't just taken care of Olivia. She had helped his daughter discover her potential and her calling. Robert's visits became more frequent and longer. He began to participate in the ranch's activities, helping with repairs and improvements. He was no longer the arrogant businessman who wanted to mold his daughter in his own image, but a father who was learning to value her uniqueness. "Emma," he said during one of these visits, "I want to apologize." "For what?" "For doubting you, for accusing you unfairly. You saved my daughter from myself." Emma looked at him with compassion. "You've changed too, Robert, and that's what matters. I know I can never make up for the lost years, but I want to be the father Olivia deserves." "You already are. Olivia speaks of you fondly now." "Really?" "Yes. She says she has 2 homes now, one with you and one here, and 2 parents, you and Chestnut." Robert laughed, a genuine laugh that Emma hadn't heard in a long time. "I think I can live with that." The story spread through the region and then across the country, not for the sensationalist aspects that Tyler Reed had tried to exploit, but for the message of acceptance and overcoming that it represented. Emma was invited to give talks about animal-assisted therapy and the inclusion of children with autism. Olivia sometimes accompanied her, explaining in her own words how Chestnut had helped her. "Chestnut taught me that being different is normal," Olivia would tell the audiences, "and Emma taught me that being myself is enough." Olivia's simple but profound words touched hearts wherever she went. Many parents of children with autism sought Emma for guidance. "How did you get Olivia to flourish so much?" they would ask. "I didn't do anything special," Emma would reply. "I just allowed her to be herself and offered unconditional love. She did the rest herself." The ranch grew. With the support of donations and volunteers, Emma managed to expand the animal-assisted therapy program. Children from all over the region came to spend weekends there, learning to care for the animals and gaining confidence. Olivia became a kind of ambassador for the program, helping other children connect with the animals. Her patience and natural empathy made her an excellent mentor. "Olivia," Emma said one day, "you're helping so many children." "I'm doing what Chestnut did for me," replied Olivia, showing that it's good to be different. The relationship between Olivia and Robert continued to strengthen. They established their own traditions: walks in the forest where Olivia had lived with Margaret, visits to animal fairs, and long conversations about caring for Chestnut. "Daddy," Olivia said during one of these outings, "are you still sad that I have autism?" Robert stopped walking and knelt down to his daughter's height. "Olivia, your autism is part of who you are, and I love who you are. I wouldn't be sad if your eyes were brown instead of blue, so why would I be sad about your autism?" Olivia smiled and hugged her father. "You're learning, Daddy." "I am, and you are my best teacher." Margaret also found her calling caring for the children who visited the property. Her experience with Olivia made her especially qualified to understand the needs of children with autism. "Margaret," said Emma one day, "you saved Olivia twice." "How so?" "First when you ran away with her, then when you brought her here. I just did what anyone who loves a child would do." "Not everyone would have that courage." Margaret smiled. "Olivia taught me that true love sometimes requires difficult decisions." The story of Olivia, Emma, and Chestnut became a symbol of hope for many families dealing with autism. It wasn't a fairy tale where problems magically disappeared, but rather a demonstration that acceptance, love, and patience could transform lives. Olivia continued to be autistic. She still had difficult days, still needed specific routines, still communicated differently, but now this was seen as part of her unique personality, not as something to be fixed. "Emma," said Olivia on a winter afternoon, exactly 1 year after Emma had found Chestnut on the road. "Do you think Chestnut knew he would find me?" "What do you think?" "I think so. Chestnut is very smart. He knew you would take care of him, and that you would take care of me, too." Emma looked at Chestnut, who was grazing peacefully in the field. The horse raised his head as if he knew he was being watched, and trotted toward them. "Maybe you're right," said Emma. "Maybe he knew exactly what he was doing." Olivia stroked Chestnut's muzzle. "Thank you for finding me," she whispered to the horse. And in the silence of that winter afternoon, Emma was sure that Chestnut had understood every word. The seasons passed, and each one brought new discoveries. Olivia learned to read with books about animals, developed an interest in veterinary medicine inspired by Emma, and began to show artistic talents, drawing the animals on the property with impressive detail. Her drawings became famous in the region. People came from far away to buy Olivia's drawings, and all the income was invested in the animal-assisted therapy program. "Olivia," said Emma, looking at one of the latest drawings, which showed Chestnut running free in a flower-filled field. "You have an amazing talent." "Chestnut inspires me," Olivia replied simply. "How so?" "When I look at him, I see freedom, and when I draw, I feel free too." Olivia's emotional maturity continued to surprise everyone around her. By age 12, she already showed a deep understanding of differences, acceptance, and compassion that many adults take decades to develop. During one of Emma's lectures at a university, Olivia was invited to speak about her experience. She walked onto the stage with confidence, something unthinkable just a few years before. "My name is Olivia, and I have autism," she began. "But autism isn't all that I am. I'm also a daughter, a friend, an animal caregiver, and an artist." The audience fell silent, absorbing her words. "My horse Chestnut taught me that being different is normal. Every animal is unique, but that doesn't make any of them less important. People should learn that too." The applause was deafening. Teachers, students, and parents wept openly, touched by the simple but profound wisdom of a 12-year-old girl. After the lecture, a mother approached Olivia with tears in her eyes. "My daughter also has autism," she said. "She's 7 years old, and I'm still learning to accept." Olivia looked at the woman with understanding. "It's hard for parents sometimes," she said, "but your daughter is perfect just the way she is. You just need to figure out what makes her happy. How did you get so wise? Chestnut taught me, and Emma did too, and my daddy is learning with me." The conversation between Olivia and the mother was a defining moment. Here was a child with autism comforting and guiding an adult, reversing traditional roles and demonstrating that wisdom doesn't come from age, but from experience and acceptance. Robert, who was watching the talk, approached with pride written all over his face. "Olivia, you were amazing," he said. "Daddy, do you think I helped that mother?" "I'm sure you did. You helped me too." "How?" "You taught me that being your father is the greatest privilege of my life, exactly as you are." Olivia smiled and hugged her father. That hug sealed a reconciliation that had begun in the courts, but was only completed when both learned to accept each other. Emma's property officially became a state-recognized animal-assisted therapy center. The program served not only children with autism, but also young people with other special needs, elderly people with depression, and even veterans with post-traumatic stress. Olivia became the unofficial ambassador of the center, showing new visitors how to interact with the animals. Chestnut, now 14 years old, remained the heart of the program, showing endless patience with all the children he cared for. "Chestnut is getting old," Olivia observed one day, noticing that the horse was moving more slowly. "He is," agreed Emma, "but look how affectionate he still is with the younger children. He's teaching them like he taught me. And you're doing the same thing. Chestnut's legacy continues through you." The observation made Olivia reflect on the future. She had begun to express interest in becoming a veterinarian, inspired by Emma and her love for animals. "Emma," she said, "when I grow up, I want to have a veterinary clinic here." "Here on the property?" "Yes, to take care of the animals that help other kids like me. So there will always be chestnuts in the world." The idea moved Emma. Seeing Olivia planning a future based on caring for others was the greatest proof that she had become a confident young woman full of purpose. "Do you think you could study to be a vet?" "Absolutely. You can teach me, and I can study hard. I want to help animals and children, like you helped me." Olivia's life plan began to take shape. Robert offered to finance her studies, and Emma committed to mentoring her in both the academic and practical aspects of veterinary medicine. "Let's make a plan," said Emma. "First, you finish high school right here with specialized support. Then you prepare for the veterinary school entrance exams. And during all that, can I keep learning here at the center? Of course, this will always be your home." The future seemed bright for everyone. Robert had become a present and understanding father. Emma had found her true calling. Margaret had found a new family, and Olivia had discovered that being different was her greatest strength. On a spring afternoon, 3 years after that frosty morning when Emma found Chestnut injured on the road, the whole family was gathered in the field, watching Olivia train other children in therapeutic riding. "Who would have thought it all started with an injured horse?" commented Robert. "Chestnut wasn't injured," said Olivia, who had overheard the comment. "He was looking for someone who could help me." "How do you know that?" asked Emma. "Because now I understand his language, and he told me." Everyone laughed, but there was a deep truth in Olivia's observation. Chestnut had truly been the catalyst that brought all those people together, creating an unconventional family, but one deeply united by love and acceptance. As the sun set on that perfect afternoon, Chestnut approached the group as he always did at the end of the day. Olivia embraced him, whispering words of gratitude that only he could hear. "Thank you for saving me," she said, and everyone there knew that, in some mysterious and beautiful way, that was exactly what the horse had done. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story of overcoming and love. Do you believe Emma made the right decision by protecting Olivia? How did you feel following this journey of transformation? Leave a comment with your honest opinion, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories like this one.